Very good afternoon, friends, and thank you very much for joining in. My name is Ganesh from HDFC Securities, and the topic of today's discussion is exchange traded funds or ETFs. And today we are going to be talking about the growing importance of ETF as an investment avenue. And along with that, we'll try and give you a perspective on how and why the banking sector can be an asset allocation avenue, especially through the ETF route. And to do that, we have two very distinguished gentlemen from Kotak Mutual Fund with us today, Mr. Devender and Mr. Satish, both of whom are fund managers and are with the fund management team. And over to you, gentlemen.
Uh, Thank you, Ganesh. I'll just and good evening, everyone. I'll just start with basically a basic about ETFs and give some kind of global and domestic ETF overviews how the markets are, and I'll talk about benefits of ETFs and details about one of our product banking ETF, which is Kotak Banking ETF. So I'll just you are able to see my Ganesh. You are able to see my PPT.
Yeah, Satish, your screen is visible. You can carry on. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Okay. So basically about ETF, what are ETFs? ETFs are basically exchange traded funds, which are basically a passive funds, and every ETF normally tracks a particular benchmark. For an example, let's say I have a Kotak Banking ETF, which normally tracks Bank Nifty index. So whatever the money which comes into Kotak Bank ETF, we normally invest into Bank Nifty index in all the underlying 12 stocks in the same proportion. So whatever the returns which we get, which Bank Nifty gives, the same kind of returns normally the banking ETF gives post expenses. So these ETFs are very flexible. ETFs are normally traded on exchange the same way the shares are traded. It is very easy to buy, and they are open-ended funds, and there is no load on these ETFs. You can buy today and you can sell tomorrow also, just like a shares. So coming about the history of ETFs, basically ETF started in US in 1992. SEC has given a approval to start ETF. The first ETF was launched by the SPDR and in 1993, which are listed on American Stock Exchange. And currently that ETF fund size is close to around, in rupee term, is around close to around 17 lakh crores. So a brief about the global ETF market. Currently, as on April end, the total number of ETFs are approximately around 8,000 ETFs are listed and traded on different stock exchange, and the global ETF AUM is around $6 trillion as on April 2020. US is the largest market in the ETFs, close to around the market share is around 69%. Or around close to around $4,000 billion. The next is European market, which is around $1,000 billion market share, around 16% to the global assets of ETFs. Outside US, Japan is the biggest market for ETFs, around close to around $380 billion, of the overall AUM of the global assets under management. So in India, basically the total asset management of ETFs as on April end is around $22 billion. Which is very small as compared to the countries like US or European countries or most of the Asian countries like So the AUM is pretty small as of now, but we are growing at a rapid speed. So this is basically the chart normally shows about the growth of the ETF since last 17 years. The ETF industry in global ETF industry has grown around 24% CAGR. In 2003, the AUM was approximately $170 billion, but now in April 2020, the total AUM of global ETFs are around $6,000 billion, which is around 28% CAGR in last 17 years. So talking about ETF markets in India, ETF has started in 2002. The first ETF launched by Benchmark Mutual Fund, which is based on Nifty index. And currently there are 18 fund houses which are offering approximately around 80 ETFs and listed 18 ETFs and 109 listings. So these ETFs are listed on NSE and BSE. So around 70% of market share is with NSE and remaining 30 ETFs are trading on BSE. So as on May end, the total AUM is approximately around 1,70,000 crores, which includes gold, equity, debt as ETFs in India. Since last 5 years, the growth, the ETF growth in India was around 65% CAGR, mainly due to the government mandate. Government has given in 2014 the mandate to EPFO and pension trust to invest some part of money into ETFs and mutual funds. So that's why the most of the AUM of ETFs comes from the EPFO as well as most of the PF trusts. This is basically index-wise ETF shares, ETF AUM split. So around 50% of the AUM out of 1,70,000 crores normally into Nifty index, Nifty 50, ETFs, and remaining are approximately around 18% into Sensex ETF, and around 8 to 10% into gold and Bank Nifty index and bond ETF and CPSE and Bharat 22 ETF. So if you compare ETF with index funds or maybe active mutual funds, ETF has a very good advantage, very good features as compared to investing into index funds or active mutual funds. So basically, the first one is basically a real-time NAV. Normally when you're investing in ETF, so the NAV which you get is a real-time NAV. So in ETF, if you're investing at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock or any point of the day times, you will get the real-time NAV. Whatever that NAV will be there at point of time, you will be allotted that NAV. But in index fund or maybe in active funds, the NAV is declared at the day end, and the day end NAV will be allocated to the investors. So ETF has the advantage of getting an intraday NAV, and the transparency is very high in ETF products as compared to index funds and active funds. The underlying benchmark portfolio or the underlying stocks are available with mutual funds, as well as the index provider also normally publish on daily basis. So transparency is very high. So any investor investing into ETFs are able to know their underlying stocks and how much weightage has given to the underlying stocks. But in index fund and the active funds, basically the portfolio normally disclosed on the monthly basis. So the transparency is not that much high as compared to ETFs. If you're coming to the liquidity part, basically, in ETF, investor can invest in buy and sell in two different ways. Like one is, since ETFs are listed on exchange, and they can buy and sell on exchange, as well as investors can directly buy and sell ETF units through AMC also. So the liquidity is very high. If you're not able to get liquidity on exchange, you can buy or sell through stock through AMCs. Or else AMC also normally provides liquidity on exchange. You can also sell or buy from exchange. So, but in case of index or index funds, or maybe particular in shares or active funds, the liquidity is only either through exchange or through mutual funds, not in on both the sides. So the liquidity is very high if you compare with index funds or shares or maybe active mutual funds. One more advantage is basically, like in ETFs, you don't have any entry or exit load. You can invest today and you can redeem tomorrow. So there is no entry or exit load as compared to active and index fund, where the entry load is there. If you're redeeming before 1 year or 6 months, you have to pay some kind of load. But in ETF, there is same like stock. You can invest today and you can sell tomorrow. There is no load on ETFs. Also, one of the benefits in ETFs are like they are, you can trade intraday. The way you, trade in shares, you can take a benefit of intraday in a volatile market. Like, if you want to sell or buy morning, and you can sell. If you want to sell in the evening, you can do that. But in index or maybe active funds, it is not possible to do intraday selling or intraday participation. So coming to different ETF versus index futures. So index futures again, index futures and ETFs are almost same. Basically, index futures also have a basket of shares, as well as ETF. ETF also has a basket of underlying index shares. But in index futures, in ETF, the advantage is basically when whatever the dividends comes from the underlying shares, they normally invest into the ETF. Reinvest into the ETF portfolio. But in index equity is not possible. So dividend advantage is there in ETFs, but not in index futures. Then coming to the minimum quantity to buy in index futures, you have to buy in a multiple lots. Okay, for example, as for a bank Nifty, if you want to buy, you have to buy a 20. The size minimum lot size is 20. It is approximately around 3 to 4 lakhs amount you have to invest on that. But in ETF, since it is the one unit is approximately 1/100th of any of the index or 1/10 of any of the index. Like like if you talk about the Kotak Banking ETF, the one unit is 1/10 of Bank Nifty. If the Bank Nifty is 20,000, let's say, my 1 unit equal to around 200. So the minimum amount you can able to invest is 200 and multiples of 200 1 unit. So there is compared to index futures, the ETFs is very cheap and give the same kind of benefit what index future gives. Then coming to a taxation, in index future, the taxation is basically like on every time you have to pay a short-term capital gains because every monthly or every monthly or weekly you have to roll over. So always there is a short-term capital gain tax. But in ETFs, if you hold ETFs till for 1 year, you have a benefit of getting long-term capital gain tax advantage, which is like 10% over and above 1 lakh rupees. If you compare the kind of investor who invests in ETFs and index futures, mostly the traders or maybe large traders normally do take part in index futures. But in ETF, traders as well as investors both have both can take part. So coming to the benefit of benefits of ETFs. So as I already told you, so once one of the best benefits of ETF is basically you will get the access to the underlying benchmark or underlying sector. So if you're talking about let's say for an example, if you're investing in a banking ETFs, you will get a total banking index stocks. You are able to get the sectorial benefit as well as the underlying benchmark benefit. For an example, if you're investing in Nifty ETF, let's say, in Nifty ETF, you have around 50 stocks as well as around 16 sectors. So 1 unit of Nifty ETF basically gives you exposure to the underlying index as well as the 16 sector exposure also. So it's basically one of the best advantages what ETF gives at real-time prices. Okay. And one of the other advantages, like you can the way you buy shares in a margin, same way ETF units also bought on a margin. And can sell and buy just like a shares. You can do ETF units. You can buy and sell on intraday basis just like a shares. And one of the other benefits is the diversification. So whenever you invest, just I already mentioned that whenever you invest in any of the ETFs, you will get the underlying benchmark exposure, as well as you also get an advantage of reducing your concentration risk. So concentration risk is basically like let's say for an example, if you're investing in a Sensex ETF, so Sensex has a 30 stocks and approximately around 12 to 13 sectors. So your money is going to different sectors as in different stocks. So though there is no concentration is in basically in ETFs, you will get the advantage of diversification in ETFs. At a low cost always. Again, transparency again, the holdings or maybe underlying stocks we normally publish on a daily basis. You will get the exposure of portfolio on daily basis, as well as apart from mutual fund, index also provides the underlying index details and weightage details on daily basis. So transparency is very high as compared to other products in the market. So one of the other benefits is cost effectiveness. So the average expense ratio of all the ETF is somewhere between around 15 basis points to 20 basis points. So the expense ratio is very low as compared to other index funds, or maybe if you compare with the active funds. So the main benefit is a low cost product, and since the cost is a major disadvantage for most of the products, but in ETF the cost is an advantage to invest or take the benefits of ETFs. So you can also use ETF as a collateral, the way you use shares. The same way you can also put with exchange. You can then take a benefit of collateral for ETF units. As well as convenience is one of the best advantage. Like you don't have to fill any form if you want to take exposure, since units are listed on NSE and BSE. You just have to call your broker, or if you have a direct online platform with you, then you can directly buy the way you buy shares. So it is very convenient to buy and sell ETF units on exchange as well as directly with AMC. So coming to the banking product, we have one Kotak Banking ETF, which is basically an exchange traded fund, and it is basically mirrors the Bank Nifty index. So whatever the amount comes into banking ETF, we invest in Bank Nifty stocks in the same proportion. And whatever the returns Bank Nifty give, the same returns given by Kotak Banking ETF post its expenses. So the expense ratio of Kotak Banking ETF is 0.17%, which is almost the lowest in the industry in its category. So if anybody wants to have sectoral benefit like banking sector benefit, so I think in the available products in the market, I think ETFs, banking ETF is the best avenue to get the exposure of banking sector. Or else if you want to a bank nifty exposure, for a short term or a long term, I think this product is very suitable for those people who want to have a banking, want to take a banking exposure. This is basically the portfolio of the Kotak banking ETF. So there are around 12 stocks. The highest weightage is around for HDFC Bank is around 31%. So the weightages are changes on a daily basis or on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. So as a so whenever there is a change in the bank Nifty index, so we have to also change our weightages on the same day to minimize our tracking error. So it is not like that if the banking index changes today, we are rebalancing it maybe after 2 or 3 days. We have to do on the same day to minimize our tracking error. So we mirror the banking index on daily basis. Why one should invest in banking ETF? So as I already told you, people who want to like a banking exposure and don't want to invest in a single stock, and if you don't want to have a concentration risk, so banking ETF is the best product to invest to take a banking exposure. And since Bank Nifty is one of the oldest index, and normally most of the mutual funds or global funds are normally tracks Bank Nifty. So Bank Nifty as those 12 stocks are the major banking stocks. And if you want to have a banking exposure, I think Kotak Banking ETF or my Bank Nifty is the best way to take exposure to banking sector. So also Kotak Banking ETF also provides a real-time NAV. If you're investing at 2 o'clock or 5 o'clock, sorry, 3 o'clock, so you can get the real-time NAV and while buying as well as while selling also. So there is no entry or exit load in for investors, so you can buy and sell tomorrow without any entry or exit load. And there is a low expense ratio, as I already told you. 0.17 is the expense ratio for banking ETF, which is one of the lowest in the industry in this category. So apart from that, one more advantage in investing in ETF is that, like, if you're buying and selling on exchange, so there is no STT on ETF units. So if you're buying on ETF units on exchange, there is no STT. While selling, there is a STT of around 0.001%. So STT is almost nil. If you compare with shares, you have to pay around 10 basis point of STT. But in ETF units, there is no STT on buying. On selling, it is very low STT. You will also get a equity taxation benefit in banking ETF since it is an equity product. And the minimum purchase unit is 1 unit, and there is no like 1 unit is equal to approximately 200 rupees. So even a small investor can invest or can do a SIP through DIY method on exchange. So this how to invest in banking ETF basically. So since I already told you that banking ETF is listed on a National Stock Exchange, the symbol is Kotak BK ETF. So the way you buy shares from the market and sell shares, buy and sell from the market, same way you can buy and sell ETF on exchange. There is nothing different from the shares. You just can note down that symbol is Kotak BK ETF, or you can search Kotak Banking ETF. It will come. That's the same way the way you buy shares from the market. The same way you can buy and sell ETF units, banking ETF units on exchange. So in case if you have any kind of difficulty or like buying or selling or for liquidity concerns, anything, you can directly call AMC and we'll help you to provide liquidity, or maybe any kind of query you have, we'll sort it out. I'll just hand over to Devinder, who will give the some kind of on view on banking sector and current scenario on banking. Thank you very much.
Hi, thanks, Satish. Hi, good evening to all of you. Hope you're all safe and sound at your respective places. Well, Satish did cover about the ETFs and banking ETF in general. Now, why to look at banking as a sector to basically as an investment avenue? So I'll just give you 2 minutes of my thought on the name. So, banking has always been a direct correlation with the GDP growth of an economy. And if you are bullish about a country's future, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be bullish about the banking sector as such. Now, if you look at the current situation, now the question arises that the GDP outlook is basically pretty bleak, and we are looking at a negative number at least for FY21 as per the various reports coming in, and not to mention the Q1 GDP number, which is likely to be a pretty big negative going in, largely because of the lockdown situation we have been post COVID-19. But markets has always been looking ahead of what is in turn in store. And if you look at where things are, liquidity in the system is very, very strong. there's been more than 8 lakh crores which have been infused by the RBI into the banking system. Now, we are not the only central bank, ours is not the only central bank which is infusing liquidity. It is happening all across the globe. Interest rates are being kept down, and yesterday we saw what Fed is saying, that it is likely to keep the interest rates at near zero for the next 2 years therein. So in our view, you would likely to see this scenario continuing for some more time, both on the global side as well as on the India side. The liquidity is likely to be pretty ample. Though the only thing missing out is basically the risk appetite, and this people are not wanting to borrow more money to put in, barring a few opportunities here and there. Now, but if you look at the banks as an investment avenue, there cannot be any revival without the credit growth in the economy. And at current times, only banks are in positions to do that. NBFCs are not in the best of the health currently. So we do think that they would basically take some more time to get back to their pink of the health and start supporting the overall economic growth by extending credits to the other segments of the society and the market. But if not to say that the banking system itself isn't very fine, but well capitalized large banks are basically the one which will come out of this crisis the fastest. The current uncertainty around the moratorium is likely to end tomorrow when the court hearing is happening. Uh, so there are two current issues with the banks are being currently gripping on. One is basically the NPAs arising out of the lockdown and how to do that. So there are two scenarios which banks have been working on to basically come out of this. First is in terms of providing enough for the NPAs which may arise out of this crisis, and second is in terms of lowering their overall cost structures therein. We have seen quite a few number of banks basically cutting cost and tightening their operations. Few of the large bank names certainly comes up on this, and not to say that given an opportunity, everyone is also ready to basically raise capital as and when one required. While it may become difficult for the smaller banks to do so, the large ones we think would not be having any problem with that, and they have enough appetite with the investors to raise money as and when things need for. If you look at what is being happening in the Q4, which has gone by, 25 to 35% loans for the large banks, and almost 25 to 90% of the loans from NBFCs and SFBs are under moratorium period, which is ending May 2020 and then extended by another 3 months. But I think, so as I said, the two things which banks need to do is one is to provide for these and another is to reduce the operating cost, which is being happening. I think definitely if you look at the near term, things are not as good as it should have been. But this is going to pay out over next few quarters. But market has always looked ahead, and this definitely FY21 is a year when everybody is wanting to look forward and is discounting. Share prices for one would definitely be looking at with the nearest glimpse of certainty coming out in how the market would be behaving. I think we have just seen the lockdown getting opened. Over the next couple of weeks and months, we would basically come out of the situation, and we hope that we come out pretty strongly, as has been done by the Indian economy earlier. Banks, for one, would basically be the flag bearer of this entire crisis in terms of coming out of this and supporting the economy as and where is required. So banking as a segment is an investment avenue which basically warrants a huge attention. We have seen the banking weight move up steadily over the last 1 decade, and there's no reason that it should come down drastically over a period of time. Uh, we do see that banking as a sector warrants immediate attention, and in terms of as an investment avenue, needs a close watch on this. And as and when you start getting a feeling that economy is basically coming back on its track and think the worst seems to be behind, at least steps have been taken to negate that. I think banking as a sector is basically poised for a very good run over the course of the years. So banking ETF, as Satish, my colleague, discussed, gives you the option of buying a basket of large banks without having to research individual names, and then buying them in the right weights also. So you could start with as little as 1 unit, and you can load up as in what your overall risk weightage of asset allocation could be. And there's enough appetite and liquidity for for your investments to be supported by the industry as such. So I think one, if you are bullish about the Indian economy, there's no reason you should be negative on banks. Specifically within that, large, well-capitalized banks would do much better. And we have seen this time and again. Every decade, there's a crisis which comes up. We have seen this is happening in 2000s. We've seen this happening in 1990s, and we have seen this happening in now 2020. So every time there is a consolidation which happens, the stronger becomes strong. The large becomes larger, the strong becomes stronger, and whosoever basically sustains this basically wins. So in the current scenario, anybody who controls the cost, operating cost, and is well capitalized has the right to win. So, and I think if you look at the banking ETF, there are the sizable chunk of that is there in the large banks, well capitalized banks therein. So rather than picking up any individual name, if you want to play the entire basket, ETF is being there. You should look at the Kotak Banking ETF as one such opportunity. We have the minimum tracking error, and we think that banking as a sector deserves a weightage in the portfolio. And if you are not wanting to go and pick up individual banks, banking ETF is one such avenue which gives you the opportunity to diversify your risk and go for as great an investment as even one unit if you want to be. Yeah, thank you all. Look forward to any questions which you have. Happy to discuss.
Great. Thanks, Devinder and Satish. Quite an insightful session. Okay, so we do have some questions which I will bounce it off to you. Okay, so here it goes. Okay, is the price of ETF and NSE the same as the NAV at any given point in time? By Mr. Ravi.
The exchange price basically okay. So since I already told you that there's a real-time NAV for every ETF. So let's say for an example, if my real-time NAV of Kotak Banking ETF 200, so exchange price should be close to 200. It will not be exactly 200 because the exchange price is normally derived by demand and supply. So since we also have a market maker whose main job is to basically provide liquidity as well as to manage quotes. So the exchange price will be close to 200. It will not be like like 210 or 205. It will be like somewhere close to 200.25 or maybe 199.75, depend upon the demand on that day. But the variation or maybe the spread will be approximately 0.25 or max to max around 0.50 basis point. If the liquidity is low, if the liquidity is high, it may be the spread will be somewhere close to 5 basis point to 10 basis point.
Okay, got it. Okay, so the next question is, sorry. Yeah, so the next question is more on the broader market view. So we have seen, rate cut. We have seen a recent rate cut by the RBI, and we've seen several rate cuts in the past as well. But Devender, how much of it is really getting transmitted or has got transmitted? Is there any visible transmission of rates that has happened? And given the current situation of this pandemic, your credit growth also has got affected. Now, how does this impact the industry, the banking sector per se?
Yeah. So while the liquidity injection has been pretty high, and RBI has been cutting the rates, the transmission to that has not happened as was being warranted by the RBI. The reason is that there's little confidence in specifically few of the NBFCs and the low-end banks, and specifically with the NPAs moving up. So the banks are not basically too much willing to lend, but that has got changed over the last couple of months. There's been MTRO which has been getting announced, and there's been the window being opened up for banks to buy the NBFC paper, and RBI is basically giving you some guarantee for that. So the liquidity has started, the transmission started happening. It has also resulted in basically a few sections of the market to get rates at a much better rates, in interest rates therein. So I think while it is not adequate and it's not to the desired levels, I think slowly when the economy starts looking up and things looks like the worst is behind, you will see the transmission happening to the full extent. And RBI is doing its best to see that the banks are actually doing that therein.
Okay, got it. Okay, so the next question is on how do I search for a particular ETF on HDFC? Okay, so the way you do it is on HDFC Securities site, you log on to your to HDFC Securities site, you go to products. Under products, you have ETF, and then all the listed ETFs you will be able to view all the listed ETFs, and you will be able to invest. There is one more question on Bharat Bond, which we will address it separately. We've noted down your name, sir. We will address it separately. Okay, can we set up an SIP on ETF? Yes, you can do that. Can NRIs invest in ETF?
Yes, they can. Any
Yes.
person who is eligible to invest in equity shares and mutual funds, they can invest in ETFs.
Okay, okay. So we have one more question on the NPA, which comes from Mr. Deepak. The present scenario of huge NPAs in the banking sector. Why should one be looking at the banking sector or the banking ETF per se?
See, when you lend, you basically get into a credit risk every time when you do that. You do it over a period of many buyers, sellers, and loan takers, so to spread out your risk. But we have seen the industry coming out and providing and raising capital to a large extent in the earlier. But then this COVID happened, and this if you were sitting in October, November last year, nobody would have talked about the NPAs continuing beyond April of 2020. The industry has provided for a large chunk of that, and would have done so easily as we approached end of 2020. But with this COVID lockdown and then specific stress on SMEs therein, I think you would have another leg of NPAs coming up. So while I didn't give you the number, 25 to 35% of the loans banks have given are under moratorium, which people have basically utilized. And for NBFCs and smaller banks, it is very high and up to 90%. So I think to that extent, you would see NPAs coming up. There's no reason why they should not be coming up, and the entire system is under stress. So that is where you basically look at well capitalized financial institutions which can absorb this loss and move forward. So when you do that today, while it may look like a near-term hit on your profitability, but banking is a segment which is a direct correlation to the economy and the GDP growth. So it has to grow as the economy grows, and we have seen this time and again. So if you are bullish on an industry and on the economy, there's no reason why you should not be bullish on banks therein. And specifically, as I said, large, well-capitalized banks and one who can control their cost would be the best poised to come out of this crisis.
Sure.
I
sure.
hope that answers.
Yeah. So, okay. The next question is from Mr. Pankaj. Which other ETF of Kotak would you recommend, or more popular in terms of volumes on a daily basis?
So we have around 6 ETFs in Kotak. One is Kotak Nifty ETF, Kotak Banking ETF, Kotak PSU Bank ETF, Kotak Sensex ETF, and Kotak NV20 ETF. In terms of liquidity, we have banking ETF and Nifty ETF are very liquid. So on an average, like in banking ETF, we have around, if you see last 6 months average was around close to around 4 to 5 crores. And in Nifty ETF, we have around a liquidity of around 3.5 crores. So liquidity is not a problem. Even in case if you're not getting liquidity, so you can call us directly and we can provide the liquidity at market rate with our market makers. So so we have appointed few market makers. We have one Kotak Securities, Edelweiss, East India, and there are other large broking firms who are our market makers. So since the ETFs are just even though it has started in 2002. But most of the ETFs came in 2014. The awareness is very less in ETF. So going forward, we might see the participation will increase and automatically the liquidity also will increase. Whereas for this point of time, if you're not getting liquidity, you can directly call us and we'll provide the liquidity at market rate.
So just to add what Satish said, even if you want to buy 100 crore worth of ETF in one day, that should not be an issue, and you will get it at the least impact cost, right, Satish?
Yeah. So that's not a problem. Even 100 crores is not a problem. We already provide liquidity for 100 crores. More than that, So liquidity is not a problem. So we can arrange it.
Great. Thank you so much. Now, so next is an interesting question. Why not go for investments directly in strong stocks like HDFC and your company itself, which is Kotak, than going for a banking ETF, which will have shares of weak banks as well, from Mr. Subhash?
Okay.
So,
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So basically, as I already told you, there is a like if people who want to have a banking sector as a whole, so I think ETFs are the best option instead of going to the specific stocks where there is a concentration risk is also there. I know there are a few large stocks which are good, but again there is a risk in the investing in a single stock. So in ETFs, you will in basically in a sectoral ETF, you'll get the diversify into the same sector, and the risk of concentrated risk is very less, and you will get at least average returns of the particular sector. So I think investing into a individual stock and investing into ETF will be the better because of diversification and less concentration risk.
Okay, so I'm sure that answers the question. So yes. So there's one question, okay, not related to this, but I'll just quickly answer that. And any ETFs to invest in other countries like like US from Mr. Mallikarjun? Okay, yes, we do have. So we have the Motilal Oswal Nasdaq 100 ETF, which you will find on our website, and the S&P 500 Index Fund, which we have on our platform. The path to it is log on to your HDFC Securities site, and under products, you will find these offerings listed. Okay. So yes, okay. We'll take the last two questions due to paucity of time again here. Is averaging advisable in ETF?
Yes, we can do. Basically, everyone normally, every investor normally does, like the way you do in SIP, or maybe whenever there is a market comes down, so you can purchase more units if you're investing for a long term. So it is basically so like ETF also same like a mutual funds only, as well as trades like a stock. So we can do averaging. I think averaging is the best way when the market comes down if you're increasing your number of units.
Okay. So okay, we'll take this last question here. Is the concept of ETF similar to mutual funds, or how different is it?
See, as I told you, mutual funds ETF is a part of mutual fund. Basically, the only difference is like ETFs normally trades on exchange. It are they have a real time NAV, but in mutual funds, especially talking about active funds and index funds, they don't have a real time NAV, as well as they don't trade on exchange. So if anybody wants to buy, they have to contact or through they can invest through broker or directly with AMC. So ETFs are, since it is listed on exchange, you can buy through exchange, as well as you can directly invest with AMC also in a particular basket. So ETFs are basically a mutual fund plus advantage of investing through exchange. So it is basically a mix of stock as well as a mutual fund, you can say.
Sure. Okay. So there's one question that just popped up. We'll close the session with this question. In your basket, there are only a handful of stocks. It's not full diversification, as in the case with mutual fund banking scheme. What are your views on that?
Mutual fund banking scheme. So
yeah,
yeah,
I
got it. Yeah,
mutual
so
fund.
yeah, in any of the active, sectorial banking fund, or maybe any of the sectorial funds, the number of stocks are maybe 30 or 40 stocks, or maybe around more than 20 stocks. But in ETF, since ETFs, we normally has to mirror any of the underlying index. So whatever the stocks there in index, we have to invest in that stock only, not more than that. So that's why, because we have to mirror the returns also. So we have to mirror the index stocks. So if I have a ETF for, let's say, as a NSE 100 or maybe BSE 100, so I have 100 stocks. So it depends upon the index, which index I'm replicating. So as per that index only, that trades only have to buy. I can't go beyond that or maybe less.
Ganesh, I'll add to this if you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. See, when you're looking at a banking ETF versus a banking mutual fund, a banking mutual fund would also have a benchmark of banking ETF as such, or Bank Nifty, for example. And the banking mutual fund is trying to outperform by selecting and varying the proportions of the names in the stocks they have and the weightage of each of these stocks. Whereas the banking ETF would basically take the Bank Nifty as an index and would give you the returns which are same as the Bank Nifty. So a bank mutual fund, which is on banking, mutual fund can give you more or less returns than a bank Nifty. Whereas if Nifty is a benchmark, bank Nifty is a benchmark, whereas a bank Nifty ETF would only give you the returns which are there of the bank Nifty. So if you think that your fund manager can do a better job in allocating the right names and finding the right names and then allocating properly and can do the outperform the benchmark, then you can go for the benchmark, the mutual fund on the banking side. Otherwise, why you would basically better pay off in a bank ETF with the least of the charges also, because you end up paying a higher note on for the performance. If you just want the performance of the benchmark, ETF is the best and cheapest way to do that.
Sure, sure. Great. I think that was very well put across. So we'll have to end the session with this. Thank you so much, dear investors, for taking out your precious time and joining us. Should you have any more queries, please get in touch with your relationship manager and we'll be glad to have your queries answered on priority. All ETFs that we have to offer that are recommended from our side, you will find a list of all that in our website itself through your HDFC Securities. You need to log into your HDFC Securities account and under research, you will be able to find the list. Thank you so much, Devender and Satish, for a wonderful session. Okay, I'm sure investors have found it really valuable and we look forward to doing such sessions again. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, dear
Sure.
investors.
Thanks, Ganesh.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Devender. Thank you.